The deep space sensor station floated alone in the dark between stars. It was one of many early warning posts built by the Galactic Empire. Most days were quiet. Trade ships passed. Patrol fleets moved in steady lines. Nothing surprising ever happened here. That was why the first reading caused laughter. Energy spike detected, a junior officer said, leaning closer to his console. Commander Aaron stood at the center of the control room. He had served the Empire for many years.
Calm.
Careful. Never rushed. What kind of spike? He asked. The officer swallowed. Dreadnought-class levels, sir. The room grew slightly quieter. Dreadnought-class energy meant a massive warship. Only the largest powers in the galaxy built ships like that. The Empire itself owned several. Origin? Aaron asked. The officer tapped commands. The identification system processed the data. A small line of text appeared beside the energy signature. Source: human. Someone laughed out loud. That has to be a glitch, another officer said. Humans don't build dreadnoughts. Aaron did not smile. Run the scan again, he ordered. The system recalibrated. Long-range sensors shifted focus. Data streams refreshed. The result did not change. Energy output: Dreadnought class. Origin: human. The laughter stopped. Impossible, the junior officer whispered. Aaron stepped closer to the main display. The energy signal pulsed steadily on the screen. It was far from the Imperial border, but moving in a straight path toward it. Run it a third time, Aaron said. Again, the same result. The human territories were known for trade, research, and engineering projects. They built strong defense platforms, yes, but nothing close to Imperial dreadnought power. At least, that was what everyone believed. Could it be stolen technology? Someone suggested. Aaron shook his head slightly. The energy pattern is not Imperial. It is different. How different? The sensor chief asked. More stable, Aaron answered quietly. Less waste. The room fell silent. Visual confirmation? Aaron asked. Still too distant for full detail, the sensor chief replied. But mass readings confirm something very large. On the display, a faint shape began to form.
Dark.
Long, heavy. Aaron felt a small weight settle in his chest. Send report to High Command, he ordered. Market priority. Within minutes, the transmission was sent. The message was simple. Unidentified dreadnought-class vessel approaching border. Probable human origin. High Command responded quickly. Confirm identification. Aaron's jaw tightened slightly. We have confirmed 3 times, he replied. Confirm again. He did not argue. Another scan. Same result. The human vessel continued forward at steady speed. Not rushing. Not hiding. Almost confident. Commander, the junior officer said softly, why would humans build something like this? Aaron kept his eyes on the screen. There are only 2 reasons to build a ship that powerful, he said. War, someone whispered. Or fear, Aaron replied. Hours passed. The shape grew clearer. It was enormous. Layered armor plates covered its hull. Shield generators pulsed in controlled cycles. Weapon ports lined its sides, more than expected, and arranged in unfamiliar patterns. High Command issued new orders. Dispatch a patrol fleet. 3 Imperial cruisers and 1 destroyer moved toward the approaching vessel. The control room watched the live feed as the patrol fleet came into range. The Imperial Admiral opened a channel. Unidentified vessel, you are approaching Imperial territory. Identify yourself. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then a clear transmission came through. This is a Terran military vessel operating within lawful space. The voice was calm, not aggressive. The Imperial Admiral replied sharply. You are operating a vessel exceeding standard defensive classification. Explain. The response came without hesitation. We built what we believed necessary. Inside the sensor station, officers exchanged uneasy looks. Aaron focused on the energy readings again. The human ship's power core was strong, but stable. Shields were active. Weapons charged, but not firing. They are ready, the sensor chief murmured. Yes, Aaron said. The Imperial destroyer moved slightly forward, adjusting position. On the screen, a faint glow spread across the human ship's hull. "Commander," the junior officer said nervously, "they're powering shields." Aaron felt the tension rise in the room. "Hold position," he ordered his team. The Imperial Admiral tried again. "You are escalating tension by bringing such a vessel to our border." The human reply came steady and simple. "We are correcting imbalance." Silence filled the control room. Aaron stared at the massive warship on the screen. The Empire had always believed humans were adaptable, but limited. Skilled, but not dominant. Now, that belief was cracking. The sensor chief leaned closer to his console. "Commander, their energy output just increased." "Charging weapons?" Aaron asked.
No.
"Redistributing power." The human warship was not acting like a reckless threat. It was acting like a statement. Aaron folded his hands behind his back. The Galactic Empire had checked the readings twice. They had checked 3 times. Each scan confirmed the same impossible truth. Humans had built a warship like this. And it was not alone in its purpose. For the first time in many cycles, Commander Aaron felt uncertainty. Not fear, but doubt. The Empire had refused to believe it, but the evidence was glowing brightly on the screen. And it was getting closer. The Empire watches in silence. The Imperial fleet stayed hidden behind the dark side of a broken moon. From there, they watched the strange human warship move through space like a shadow with purpose. Admiral Tor stood at the center of the command deck. His 4 eyes stayed fixed on the main screen. The image of the human ship rotated slowly. Every officer on the bridge could see it clearly now. It was massive. The Empire had seen human ships before. Cargo vessels. Small patrol ships. Mining crafts. Weak and thin things made for trade, not war. But this was different. The ship was long and sharp, like a blade made of metal and fire. Thick armor covered its body. Large engine ports glowed with deep blue light. Rows of heavy cannons lined its sides. And around it floated smaller escort ships, moving in perfect formation. "This cannot be correct," Tor said quietly. Commander Vale stepped forward. "The scans have been confirmed 3 times. Energy levels are equal to our frontline destroyers." Tor's eyes narrowed. "Impossible." An officer at the sensor station spoke. "Admiral, the ship is charging something." The room became very still. On the screen, bright light began to gather at the front of the human warship. It did not look like a normal laser cannon. It was larger, more focused. The energy reading kept rising. "Target?" Tor asked. The sensor officer swallowed. "A drifting asteroid field. No military value." "Why fire at that?" Vale whispered. No one answered. A moment later, the human ship released the blast. A beam of pure white light shot across space. It hit the largest asteroid in the field. For a brief second, nothing happened. Then the asteroid shattered. Not cracked. Not broken into large pieces. It turned into dust. The shockwave moved through the entire asteroid field. Rocks split apart. Some melted. Others exploded. In less than a minute, the field was gone. Silence filled the Imperial bridge. Energy readings slowly dropped as the human ship powered down its weapon. Tor felt something cold settle inside him. "That weapon," he said slowly, "could break a planetary shield." Commander Vale nodded. "Yes, Admiral." Another officer added, "And they did not hesitate to use it." Tor looked again at the human ship. It did not move like a frightened race trying to survive. It moved with confidence. With control. "They're sending a signal," Vale said. Tor stiffened. "On what channel?" "All channels." The audio was translated quickly by Imperial systems. A calm human voice filled the bridge. "This is the United Earth Fleet. We are conducting defensive tests. We do not seek war, but we will protect our space." The message repeated. Tor let out a slow breath. "Defensive tests," he muttered. He knew the meaning behind it. The humans were showing their strength. On the human warship, Captain Mark stood with his hands behind his back. He watched the readings from the main weapon test. All systems stable, said Officer Liam from the weapons console. Damage to nearby space debris? Mark asked. Minimal risk to navigation routes. Cleared as planned. Mark nodded. Good. Send the standard message again. The crew moved quickly, calm and focused. There was no cheering, no shouting, just quiet professionalism. Mark turned to his second-in-command. Do they see us? They see us, the officer replied. Imperial scouts have been in the area for hours. Mark gave a small smile. Good. Let them watch. He looked at the stars beyond the viewing window. Humans had spent years building this fleet in secret. They had learned from every mistake. They had studied alien technology. They had improved it, changed it, made it stronger. They did not want war, but they would not be weak again. Back on the Imperial flagship, tension grew. A new message arrived from Imperial High Command. Tor read it silently. Do not engage. Continue observation. Confirm full capabilities. So the High Council had seen the data. Tor felt relief and frustration at the same time. Part of him wanted to test the human ship, to see if it truly was as powerful as it seemed. But another part of him understood the danger. They are not acting like an inferior race, Vale said quietly. No, Tor agreed. They are acting like equals. An officer suddenly called out, Admiral, additional contacts detected. Everyone turned toward the screen. 3 more large ships appeared from hyperspace behind the first one. Each carried the same heavy armor, the same massive weapons. Energy signatures matched. Vale's voice sounded tight. They were never alone. Tor felt the weight of the situation fully now. This is not a single warship, he said. This is a fleet. And if this was only a small part of what humans had built, then the Empire had made a terrible mistake. For years, they had believed humans were divided, weak, slow to advance. But now, the truth stood before them in cold metal and fire. The Empire had underestimated Earth. Tor straightened his posture. Prepare a full report for the High Council, he ordered. And send a warning to all nearby Imperial systems. Warning? Vale asked. Yes, Tor replied. He looked once more at the human fleet, glowing proudly against the stars. Tell them to treat humans with caution. Because deep inside, Admiral Tor knew something important. The balance of power in the galaxy had just changed. The Council refuses to believe. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Empire was filled with light and noise. Tall pillars of silver metal reached high into the ceiling. Floating screens showed the image of the human warship again and again. Every council member had seen the recording. Every one of them had watched the asteroid field turn into dust. But many still refused to believe it. This must be deception, one elder said loudly. His voice echoed through the chamber. Humans do not possess this level of technology. Another council member agreed. Their race was barely space-capable a few centuries ago. They were divided, fighting among themselves. They were weak, a third added. At the center of the chamber stood Admiral Tor. He remained calm, but inside, he felt growing frustration. With respect, Tor said firmly, our sensors confirmed the readings multiple times. The energy output was real. The weapon is real. Murmurs spread across the chamber. The High Chancellor leaned forward in his seat. His face was serious. Admiral, are you saying that humans now equal our frontline fleets? Tor did not hesitate. I am saying they may exceed them in certain areas. Silence followed his words. The idea was unacceptable to many. For generations, the Empire had ruled the galaxy. Other species traded with them, feared them, or served them. Humans had been considered unpredictable but manageable. Now that belief was shaking. One council member stood up angrily. Perhaps this is stolen technology. Maybe they copied us. Tor replied calmly. If they copied us, they improved it. The chamber grew quiet again. Large screens shifted to show more data. Images of 3 additional human warships appeared. Their formations were perfect. Their energy cores stable and powerful. Commander Vale's recorded voice played through the speakers. Human fleet movements show high discipline and coordination. No signs of disorder. The High Chancellor folded his hands together. And their message? Tor repeated it clearly. They claim the weapon test was defensive. They state they do not seek war. A council member gave a cold laugh. Every race says that before expansion. But Tor was not convinced of that. He had watched the human ships closely. Their movements were controlled. They did not advance toward Imperial space. They did not threaten trade routes. They simply showed their strength. Far from the Imperial capital, the human fleet remained steady. Captain Mark stood inside the strategy room. Around him were holographic maps of nearby star systems. Small blue lights marked human positions. Red lights marked known Imperial patrol routes. Officer Liam spoke first. Imperial ships are still observing. No aggressive movement. Good, Mark replied. Maintain current formation. A young officer looked worried. Sir, do you think they will attack? Mark paused before answering. They might, he said honestly. Empires do not like surprises. He looked at the holographic image of the Empire's border systems. For years, they treated us like a minor power. They sent patrol ships through our outer systems without permission. They tested our defenses. He turned to face his crew. We built this fleet so that never happens again. The room was silent but confident. Humans had learned from history. On their own world, they had once been divided by nations. Wars had weakened them. But over time, they united under one banner when they stepped into deep space. The United Earth Fleet was the result of that unity. They did not build ships for conquest. They built them so no one could threaten Earth again. Back in the Grand Council chamber, the debate continued. Some members demanded immediate military action. Others advised caution. The High Chancellor finally raised his hand for silence. We cannot act on fear, he said slowly. But we cannot ignore this development. He turned toward Admiral Tor. Admiral, what is your recommendation? Tor took a breath. Send a diplomatic envoy. Gasps filled the chamber. Diplomacy, one elder shouted. With humans? Yes, Tor replied firmly. If they wanted war, they could have attacked our scouts. They did not. They are sending a message. We should answer it carefully. The High Chancellor studied him for a long moment. And if this is a trick, he asked. Then we will know soon enough, Tor said. The Chancellor leaned back in his seat. Very well. Prepare a diplomatic mission. But keep our fleets ready. Tor bowed his head slightly. As he left the chamber, he felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The Empire had ruled for centuries through strength. But now, strength alone might not be enough. In the darkness of space, the human fleet received new signals. Officer Liam turned toward Captain Mark. Sir, incoming transmission from the Galactic Empire. Mark's eyes narrowed slightly. On screen, the image of an Imperial symbol appeared. Then a calm alien voice spoke. The Galactic Empire requests formal diplomatic contact with the United Earth Fleet. Mark did not smile, but his eyes showed satisfaction. They chose to talk, the young officer whispered. Mark nodded slowly. For now. He straightened his uniform. Prepare the conference chamber. Let us show them that humanity stands as an equal. Outside, the massive warships floated quietly among the stars. Two great powers now faced each other, not with weapons firing, but with tension rising. And everyone in the galaxy was beginning to understand one thing. Humans were no longer a minor species. They were a power, and the Empire was no longer certain of its place at the top. The first meeting. The human warship moved slowly toward a neutral zone between both territories. It did not power up its weapons. It did not raise shields. It simply drifted with calm control. On the other side, an Imperial diplomatic cruiser approached. It was smaller than the human battleship, but still elegant and strong. Its silver hull reflected the light of a nearby star. Inside the human flagship, Captain Mark stood in the conference chamber. The room was simple but modern. A large round table stood in the center. Soft blue lights glowed along the walls. The flag of United Earth was displayed behind him. Officer Liam checked the communication systems one last time. Connection stable, sir. Mark nodded. Open the channel. The main screen came alive. The image of an Imperial official appeared. He wore dark ceremonial armor and a long cloak. His sharp eyes studied the human captain carefully. I am Ambassador Ral of the Galactic Empire, the alien said in a calm voice. I speak on behalf of the High Council. I am Captain Mark of the United Earth Fleet, Mark replied politely. I represent humanity. There was a short silence. Both sides measured each other. Ambassador Ral spoke first. Your recent weapon test has caused concern within the Empire. Mark remained steady. It was not meant as a threat. It was a demonstration. A powerful one, Ral replied. Yes, Mark said simply. The ambassador's eyes narrowed slightly. For many cycles, humans have been seen as a developing species. Your sudden military growth raises questions. Mark did not show offense. For many years, Imperial patrols entered our outer systems without permission. We were studied, observed, sometimes tested. Ral did not deny it. Mark continued, we built this fleet so that our people would never feel powerless again. The ambassador folded his hands. Are you declaring independence from Imperial oversight? Mark answered clearly. Human space has always been independent. The words hung in the air. In the Imperial cruiser, observers listened carefully. Some officers looked angry. Others looked uneasy. Ral spoke again, this time more carefully. The Empire does not seek unnecessary conflict. Stability is important for all species. We agree, Mark said. Then why build weapons capable of destroying planets? Ral asked directly. Mark did not look away. Because history has taught us that peace without strength is fragile. The ambassador studied him closely. He could see no fear in the human's face. No weakness. Only confidence. On the Imperial flagship observing from a distance, Admiral Tor watched the meeting in silence. Commander Vale stood beside him. They speak like equals. Tor nodded slowly. Because they believe they are. And if they are? Vale asked quietly. Tor did not answer. Back in the conference chamber, the conversation continued. Ambassador Ral changed the topic slightly. The Empire wishes to understand your intentions clearly. Do you plan expansion into neutral or Imperial systems? Mark replied calmly. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We seek trade, exploration, and cooperation. But we will defend every system under our protection. Ral tilted his head slightly. Your fleet suggests preparation for more than defense. Mark allowed himself a small smile. Preparation prevents war. There was truth in those words. Ral leaned back slightly. If the Empire recognizes human territory formally, what does humanity offer in return? Mark was ready for that question. Shared research, joint trade agreements, open communication channels, and stability on your border. The ambassador seemed thoughtful. You are confident the Empire needs stability from you? Mark answered without pride, only honesty. You saw the weapon test. Silence followed. Even across light years of space, the tension was strong. Finally, Ral spoke. The High Council will review your proposals. Until then, we request no further large-scale weapon demonstrations near Imperial space. Mark nodded once. Agreed. As long as Imperial patrol ships respect our borders. Ral gave a small, slow nod. For now, he said. For now, Mark repeated. The transmission ended. In the Human Command Center, some officers let out quiet breaths of relief. Officer Liam spoke softly. Do you think they believed us? Mark looked at the stars outside the viewing window. They believed the weapon, he said. That is enough. He turned back toward his crew. Stay alert. This is not over. On the Imperial side, the High Council received the full recording of the meeting. The chamber was quiet this time. No one shouted. No one laughed. The image of the human fleet filled the screens again. Strong. Organized. Ready. The High Chancellor finally spoke. Humans have changed. No one disagreed. Admiral Tor stood nearby, silent but thoughtful. The Empire had faced many threats before. Rebellions, rival species, pirates. But this was different. This was not a rising enemy. This was a new power. And whether the Empire liked it or not, humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage.
Not as students.
Not as followers, but as equals. Far in space, the two fleets remained in quiet watch. The galaxy held its breath. Because everyone understood one thing clearly now. The next move from either side could shape the future of the stars. Shadows behind the throne. The meeting ended, but the tension did not. In the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Empire, the air felt heavy. The recording of the human captain's words played again on the tall screens. Preparation prevents war. Some council members did not like how calm he had sounded. He speaks as if we are equals, one elder said with clear anger. He speaks as if we are afraid, another added. The High Chancellor remained silent for a long time. His eyes were fixed on the image of the human fleet. Massive ships. Clean lines. No visible fear. Admiral Tor stood near the center of the chamber. The humans are not afraid, Tor said at last. And that is what makes this serious. A younger council member leaned forward. Then we should remind them who rules this galaxy. Tor turned toward him. And how would you do that? With force, the council member replied. Tor did not raise his voice, but his words were sharp. Their fleet destroyed an asteroid field the size of a small moon. In seconds, the chamber went quiet again. The Empire had always believed its military was unmatched. But now there was doubt. The High Chancellor finally spoke. We will not rush into war. Not yet. Some looked disappointed. Others looked relieved. But, the Chancellor continued, we must learn more about these human ships. Every weakness. Every limit. He turned toward Tor. Send reconnaissance units. Quietly. I want full analysis. Tor bowed slightly. It will be done. Far from the Imperial capital, in the darkness between systems, small Imperial stealth ships began moving toward human space. They did not activate weapons. They did not send signals. They simply watched. Inside the human flagship, Captain Mark stood with Officer Liam in the command center. Large holographic maps floated in the air. Blue lights marked human territory. Small red signals blinked near the edge. Liam frowned. Sir, we are detecting faint energy signatures near Sector 9. Mark studied the map carefully. Imperial? Most likely. Mark nodded slowly. They want more information. Should we intercept? Mark thought for a moment. No, he said. Let them watch. Liam looked surprised. Sir? Mark turned to face him. If we chase every scout, we look nervous. Let them see what we want them to see. He tapped a control panel. Shift Fleet Group 2 to visible patrol near Sector 9. Standard formation. No weapons charged. Liam understood. Show strength, but show control. Days passed. Imperial scouts watched carefully. They recorded everything. Human ships moved with discipline. They rotated patrols smoothly. Supply vessels traveled with heavy escorts. There was no chaos. No weakness. One Imperial scout captain whispered to his crew, they operate like a single mind. Back in the Empire, secret reports reached the Council. They have multiple fleets, one analyst said. Not just one. How many? Asked the Chancellor. At least 4 major battle groups. Possibly more. The chamber grew tense again. An older council member spoke in a low voice. This is happening too fast. A species does not rise this quickly without outside help. Admiral Tor responded. Our intelligence shows no alliance. Humans built this alone. The elder shook his head. Impossible. Tor looked directly at him. We once believed humans were divided and weak. We were wrong. Silence followed. The High Chancellor stood slowly. If we strike them and fail, he said carefully, the entire galaxy will see weakness. That truth was hard to ignore. The Empire ruled not only through power, but through reputation. If humanity defeated even a portion of the Imperial fleet, smaller species might rebel. The risk was enormous. Meanwhile, on Earth, news of the meeting had reached the public. In cities across the planet, people watched broadcasts of the human fleet. Children looked up at the sky with pride. Workers paused to see images of the massive ships protecting their world. For many, it was the first time humanity truly felt united. In a quiet office overlooking a shining city, the Secretary-General of United Earth spoke with Captain Mark through secure communication. "You handled the meeting well," the leader said calmly. Mark nodded. "They are uncertain. That gives us space." "Do you trust them?" Mark paused. "No," he answered honestly. "But I believe they are thinking carefully." The Secretary-General folded his hands. "We must avoid war. But we cannot step back." "We will not," Mark replied. In deep space, one Imperial scout ship drifted closer than ordered. Its captain wanted clearer readings of the human energy core. As the ship approached a human patrol cruiser, alarms suddenly sounded inside the scout vessel. A calm human voice filled their communication channel. "You are inside restricted space. Please adjust course immediately." The Imperial captain hesitated. Then human weapons powered on just enough to glow. Not firing. Just ready. The message was clear. The scout quickly changed direction and retreated. Back in the Grand Council chamber, the report was delivered. "They warned us," the scout commander admitted. "But they did not fire." The High Chancellor leaned back in his throne. "They are disciplined," he said. Admiral Tor nodded slowly. "Yes," he replied. "And disciplined powers are the most dangerous." The Empire had ruled for centuries without serious challenge. Now a new power stood at its border. Calm, prepared, and watching just as carefully. The galaxy was changing, not with explosions. Not yet, but with quiet moves in the dark. And both sides knew. The next mistake could light a fire that would not easily be put out. The line in the stars. The tension between the Galactic Empire and humanity continued to grow, but neither side made the first violent move. In the Grand Council chamber, new reports filled the air with unease. "They're expanding their shipyards," one Imperial analyst said. "Construction in 3 separate systems." The High Chancellor frowned. "Are they building more warships?" "Yes." Admiral Tor stepped forward. "They are not hiding it. The construction sites are clearly visible." A council member spoke sharply. "That is a challenge." "Or a warning," Tor replied calmly. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "What kind of warning?" "That they are preparing for a future where we are not the only superpower," Tor said. The word superpower echoed quietly through the chamber. For centuries, that word belonged only to the Empire. Far away, near the outer edge of human-controlled space, a new structure floated above a gas giant. It was massive, larger than any human station before it. It was called the Defense Ring. Captain Mark stood inside its central control room. The walls were lined with bright displays. Engineers moved quickly, but calmly. Officer Liam walked beside him. "The first phase is complete," Liam reported. "Shield arrays are online. Long-range cannons are ready." Mark looked through the wide window at the giant planet below. "This station is not for attack," he said quietly. "It is a shield." Liam nodded. "But it looks like a sword." Mark allowed a small smile. Sometimes a shield must look strong. A few days later, an Imperial patrol fleet entered a nearby neutral system. It was a clear message. 5 cruisers and 2 battleships, moving slowly but deliberately. They did not cross into human territory, but they came close, very close. On the human flagship, alarms sounded softly. "Imperial fleet detected near Sector 12, an officer announced. Mark stepped forward. "Distance. Just outside our border." Liam looked concerned. "That is not random." "No," Mark agreed. "It is pressure." He turned toward the fleet display. "Move Battle Group 3 to the border. Defensive formation only. No weapons locked." Within hours, human warships appeared on the edge of the system. Larger ships, heavier armor, bright engine trails. The 2 fleets now faced each other across an invisible line in space. No one fired, But the message was clear. Inside the Imperial flagship, Admiral Tor stood at the main viewing screen. They responded quickly, Commander Vale said. Yes, Tor replied. They match our numbers. Tor studied the human formation, and they positioned their heavier ships in the center. Smart. Vale looked uneasy. If a battle begins, losses will be heavy. Tor nodded slowly. For both sides, he opened a communication channel. This is Admiral Tor of the Galactic Empire, he said clearly. State your intentions. Moments later, Captain Mark appeared on the screen. This is Captain Mark of the United Earth Fleet, he replied calmly. Our fleet is in defensive position only. Tor studied him carefully. Your expansion and military growth concern the Empire. Mark answered without hesitation. Your patrol fleet near our border concerns humanity. Silence followed. Two commanders. Two powers. Both careful with every word. Tor finally spoke. Are you preparing for war? Mark shook his head slightly. We are preparing so war does not happen. Tor felt a strange respect growing in him. The human captain was not arrogant. He was steady, disciplined, much like Tor himself. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Civilian broadcasts showed images of the two fleets facing each other in deep space. People watched with nervous hearts. In schools, children asked teachers if war was coming. In factories, workers built ship parts faster. Humanity had once been divided by borders and language. Now there was only one border that mattered, the line between them and the Empire. And everyone understood its importance. In the Imperial Council chamber, fear and anger mixed together again. They are challenging us openly, one elder shouted. They have not crossed the line, the High Chancellor said carefully. But they stand at it, another replied. Admiral Tor appeared on the central screen from his flagship. If we attack now, he said, we risk massive losses. Their fleet is ready. Their defense ring station is active. The Chancellor looked surprised. Defense ring? Yes, Tor answered. A large orbital station with heavy shielding. The chamber grew quiet. They are building fortresses, someone whispered. Tor corrected him. They are building security. The High Chancellor stood slowly. For now, he declared, our fleet will hold position. No weapons discharge without direct order. Some council members were unhappy, but none argued openly. In deep space, both fleets remained in place. Days passed. Ships drifted slowly. Weapons stayed powered but silent. Captain Mark stood on the bridge, watching the Imperial ships through magnified sensors. Officer Liam spoke quietly. They are waiting for us to make a mistake. Mark nodded. So, we will not give them one. He turned to the crew. Maintain formation. Rotate shifts. No provocation. Outside the ship, stars burned quietly. Between two great powers, a silent line had been drawn across space. It was not made of metal or energy. It was made of will. And both sides understood something important. The one who lost control first would lose everything. For now, the line held. But the galaxy felt closer to fire than ever before. The spark in the dark. The silent line between the Galactic Empire and humanity held for many days. Both fleets stayed in position near Sector 12. Ships drifted slowly. Weapons remained powered but unfired. Every movement was watched. The galaxy felt tense. Then something unexpected happened. It began with a small explosion. One of the Imperial cruisers suddenly lost power. A bright flash burst from its engine core. The ship spun slightly out of formation. On the Imperial flagship, alarms rang loudly. Engine failure on Cruiser 3, an officer shouted. Admiral Tor stepped forward. Cause? Unknown. Energy spike detected seconds before the explosion. On the human flagship, sensors picked up the same event. Officer Liam looked at his screen. Sir, Imperial cruiser damaged. Engine core unstable. Captain Mark frowned. Did we fire anything?
No, sir.
All weapon systems inactive. Mark's eyes narrowed. Scan the surrounding space. Wide range. The situation was dangerous. If the Empire believed humans had attacked, war would begin immediately. Inside the damaged Imperial cruiser, chaos spread. Sparks flew from broken panels. Crew members rushed to stabilize the reactor. "We are losing containment," one officer yelled. Admiral Tor opened a direct channel. "Divert power to shields. Stabilize the core." Then a second explosion hit. This time it came from outside. A small, fast-moving object struck the cruiser's hull and vanished in a burst of light. Tor's eyes widened. That was not human fire. Commander Vale quickly checked the data. The trajectory did not match human positions. "Then what was it?" Tor demanded. Before anyone could answer, 3 more small objects appeared on long-range sensors. They moved fast, too fast for standard ships. On the human side, alarms began sounding. "Unknown contacts detected," Liam reported. "Multiple signatures. Not Imperial. Not ours." Mark stepped forward. "Show me." On the main screen, small dark shapes moved between the two fleets. They were sleek and sharp, almost invisible against the stars. One of them fired a bright pulse at another Imperial ship. The pulse hit, and shields flared violently. "They are attacking the Empire," Liam said. "And they are positioned between us," Mark replied quietly. He understood immediately. Someone wanted the two powers to fight. Back on the Imperial flagship, anger filled the bridge. "They are using hidden drones," one officer shouted. "Humans are attacking through proxies." Tor raised his hand sharply. Silence. He studied the sensor data carefully. The attack angles. The energy signatures. It did not match human technology. At that same moment, Captain Mark opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Mark," he said firmly. "We are detecting unknown hostile craft. We are not responsible for the attack." Some Imperial officers demanded the channel be closed. But Tor listened. "We are also under attack," Mark continued. "These ships are targeting both sides." As if to prove his words, one of the dark craft fired toward a human destroyer. The human ship's shields flared bright blue. Mark turned to his crew. "Target the unknown craft only. Do not lock onto Imperial vessels." Liam nodded. "Understood." Human weapons powered up, but they aimed carefully at the small attackers. Moments later, bright beams shot across space. One of the dark craft exploded into fragments. On the Imperial side, Tor made a fast decision. "Target the unknown ships," he ordered. "Ignore human vessels unless fired upon." Imperial cannons roared to life. Red energy beams struck another attacker. For the first time, human and Imperial ships fired in the same direction. The battle was fast and confusing. The unknown ships moved with strange patterns. They darted between larger vessels, firing quick pulses and then vanishing from scanners. "They are trying to provoke full conflict," Mark said. Tor, listening through the open channel, agreed silently. Within minutes, 2 more Imperial ships were damaged and 1 human cruiser suffered shield failure. But slowly, the attackers were destroyed. One by one, the dark shapes exploded into silent debris. Finally, the last hostile signal vanished. Space grew quiet again. Burning fragments drifted between the two fleets. Smoke trailed from damaged ships on both sides. Admiral Tor opened the channel once more. "Captain Mark," he said carefully. Mark appeared on screen, calm but serious. "It seems," Tor continued, "that someone wishes to see us at war." Mark nodded. "Agreed." Tor studied him. "Your fleet fought the attackers, not us." "Yes," Mark said, "because they were the real enemy." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Tor said something unexpected. "Thank you." Mark gave a small nod. "The feeling is mutual." Far away, in a hidden part of space, a shadowed vessel observed the battlefield through distant sensors. Inside that ship, unknown figures watched quietly. One of them spoke in a low voice. They did not turn on each other. Another replied, "Then we must try something stronger." The shadow ship powered down its systems and disappeared into deep space. Back at Sector 12, rescue operations began. Human and Imperial ships cautiously moved closer, not to fight, but to assist damaged vessels. For the first time, small joint teams shared information openly. The silent line between them still existed. But something had changed. They had faced a common threat. And neither side had taken the easy path to war. The galaxy had almost burned. But instead of fire, there was now a question. Who had tried to light the spark? And how far were they willing to go? The hidden enemy. The battlefield in Sector 12 was quiet again, but the silence felt different now. Burned metal and broken debris floated between the human and Imperial fleets. Rescue ships moved carefully through the wreckage. Damaged cruisers were being repaired. Emergency lights blinked across scarred hulls. For the first time, small human and Imperial vessels operated in the same space without aiming weapons at each other. Captain Mark stood on the bridge, watching repair teams work. Officer Liam studied the sensor data from the battle. Sir, the unknown ships left almost nothing behind. Their core systems self-destructed. Mark nodded slowly. They did not want to be traced. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Tor received similar reports. Commander Vale spoke in a low voice. The attack pattern was precise. They targeted us first, then humans. They wanted confusion. Tor folded his hands behind his back. They wanted us to fire at each other. Vale hesitated. If we had reacted faster, we might have. Tor gave a quiet nod. Yes. He opened a direct communication channel. Captain Mark, he said calmly. The human captain appeared on screen. We have reviewed our data, Tor continued. The attackers used advanced cloaking and fast-strike drones. This technology does not belong to any known Empire faction. Mark replied, Our analysts reached the same conclusion. For a moment, both men were silent. We have a common problem, Mark said finally. Yes, Tor agreed. Someone fears cooperation between us. On Earth, emergency meetings took place within the United Earth government. Scientists, military leaders, and intelligence officers gathered around large digital displays. One analyst spoke clearly. The unknown ships had energy signatures that were unfamiliar. Not Imperial. Not human. Another added, the flight patterns suggest advanced artificial control. Possibly autonomous strike systems. The Secretary General looked serious. So we face a third power? Most likely, the analyst answered. Do they want territory? Someone asked. No, the analyst replied. They want chaos. Meanwhile, deep within the Imperial capital, the High Council debated again. This is human deception, one elder shouted. Admiral Tor stood firm. The humans suffered damage as well. Their ships were targeted. Another council member looked worried. If this hidden enemy exists, they may strike again. The High Chancellor raised his hand for silence. For centuries, the Empire has stood alone at the top, he said slowly. Perhaps we have ignored threats growing in the shadows. He turned toward Tor. What do you propose? Tor answered carefully. A temporary information exchange with humanity. The chamber reacted with shock. Share intelligence, an elder said sharply. Yes, Tor replied. If this enemy wants us divided, we must not give them that advantage. The Chancellor looked thoughtful. After a long pause, he spoke. Begin limited cooperation. Strictly military intelligence only. Tor bowed his head slightly. In Sector 12, a small joint command channel was established. It was not friendly. It was not warm. But it was open. Captain Mark and Admiral Tor shared data files. Sensor logs. Weapons signatures. Flight paths. Human scientists worked alongside Imperial analysts through secure networks. Officer Liam looked at the growing data patterns on screen. Sir, the attack vectors all came from the same deep space region. Mark stepped closer. How far? Beyond mapped Imperial territory. Near the outer dark zones. Mark crossed his arms. Uncharted space. On the Imperial flagship, Commander Vale reached the same conclusion. She turned to Tor. The source lies outside known borders. Tor's eyes narrowed. Then, whoever they are, they have been hiding for a long time. Days later, a breakthrough came. Human analysts discovered a faint repeating signal buried in the attack data. It was weak, but consistent. A control signal guiding the strike drones. They shared the discovery with the Imperial fleet. This signal points to a fixed origin, Liam explained during the joint briefing. Tor studied the coordinates. It is deep, he said. Far from trade routes. Mark nodded. A perfect place to hide. The High Chancellor authorized a joint reconnaissance mission. It would be small, careful, and secret. Soon, a combined task force formed quietly. 2 human stealth cruisers. 2 Imperial scout ships. They moved together toward the dark coordinates. For the first time in history, human and Imperial vessels traveled side by side with a shared objective. The journey took several days. Stars grew fewer as they moved outward. Space felt colder, emptier. Finally, the lead human scout slowed. Energy readings ahead, the pilot reported. On the main screen, something massive slowly came into view. It was not a planet, not a station. It was a hidden fleet. Dozens of dark ships floated around a large central structure. Their design matched the attackers from Sector 12. Hidden shipyards surrounded the structure. Factories glowed faintly with power. They were preparing more strike drones, Liam whispered. Admiral Tor's voice came through the joint channel. This is not a small pirate group. Mark stared at the sight. No, he agreed quietly. This is a hidden power. Suddenly, one of the dark ships turned toward the approaching task force. Alarms rang on both human and Imperial bridges. They have detected us. Weapons began powering up across the hidden fleet. Mark's voice was steady. Looks like they are ready for war. Tor replied calmly, then we must decide together. In the darkness beyond known space, the real enemy had been found. And now the choice was clear. Fight separately and fall, or stand together against something far worse than either had imagined. Fire in the outer dark. The hidden fleet did not wait. The moment the human and Imperial scouts were detected, the dark ships powered their weapons fully. Bright lines of energy began to form along their hulls. Inside the human stealth cruiser, alarms flashed red. They are locking on, the pilot reported. Captain Mark stood at the central display, watching the enemy fleet spread into attack formation. On the Imperial scout ship, Admiral Tor gave a short command. Defensive pattern. Shields at maximum. The first wave came fast. Small strike drones launched from the hidden shipyard and rushed forward like a swarm. They moved with sharp, sudden turns, guided by artificial control. Drones incoming, Officer Liam shouted. Open fire, Mark ordered. Human cannons lit up the darkness. Blue beams cut through space, destroying several drones in bright flashes. Imperial ships fired red energy bursts beside them, matching the rhythm of human fire. For a brief moment, their attacks looked almost coordinated. But the enemy numbers were large. Dozens of drones broke through the first line and slammed into Imperial shields. Sparks of light exploded across their barriers. On one Imperial vessel, shield levels dropped rapidly. Shield failure at 20%, Commander Vale warned. Tor's voice stayed calm. Pull back slightly. Let the human cruiser cover your flank. It was a strange order, but it was given without hesitation. The human ship shifted position instantly, placing itself between the damaged Imperial vessel and the swarm. Its heavy cannons fired in rapid sequence, clearing the immediate threat. On Mark's bridge, Liam glanced at him. We just shielded an Imperial warship. Mark did not look away from the screen. Today they are allies. Beyond the drone swarm, the larger hidden ships began to move. They were shaped like long black spears. Their surfaces absorbed most light, making them difficult to track. One of them fired a powerful beam toward the human cruiser. Impact in 3 seconds, Liam called out. The beam struck hard. The ship shook violently. Crew members grabbed consoles to stay upright. Sparks flew from overhead panels. Shields holding at 60%, the engineer reported. Mark's jaw tightened. Return fire. Target that spear-class vessel. The main human cannon charged with a deep hum. Then it fired. A bright pulse of concentrated energy shot forward and struck the enemy ship directly. The dark hull cracked, and the vessel split apart in a silent explosion. On the Imperial bridge, even seasoned officers stared in shock. That weapon, Vale whispered. Tor nodded slowly.
Yes.
Very powerful. But there was no time to think. Another wave of enemy ships joined the battle. The Joint Task Force was outnumbered. Even fighting together, they were only 4 ships against dozens. More enemy vessels powering up, Liam warned. Mark knew they could not win by brute force alone. He opened a secure channel to Admiral Tor. We cannot defeat the entire fleet here, Mark said clearly. But we can damage their production center. Tor understood immediately. The central structure. Yes, Mark replied. If we destroy it, we cripple their ability to create more drones. Tor studied the tactical display. It will require close range. It will, Mark agreed. There was only a short pause. Then we strike together, Tor said. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The 2 human cruisers would draw enemy fire from the left. The Imperial ships would circle wide and attack the central structure from the right. Timing had to be perfect. Execute, Mark ordered. The human ships accelerated forward, firing heavily at approaching Spear-class vessels. Enemy ships turned toward them, focusing their strongest weapons. Shields dropped to 40%, then 35%. Inside the human cruiser, warning lights flashed. But they held formation. On the far side, Admiral Tor's ships moved quietly through a thin gap in enemy defenses. Distance to target? Tor asked. 5,000 kilometers, Vale answered. The central structure was massive. Dark metal covered its surface. Small shipyards extended like arms. It was the heart of the hidden fleet. Charge main batteries, Tor commanded. Imperial cannons glowed bright red. Fire. The blast struck the structure's outer layer. Explosions rippled across its surface. Alarms began flashing across the enemy fleet. Several dark ships turned back toward the Imperial attackers. Mark saw the shift. They are redirecting, he said.
Now.
The human cruisers increased firepower. One activated its secondary heavy cannon and fired directly at the weakened section of the central structure. The combined human and Imperial blasts hit within seconds of each other. The structure cracked. Then it broke apart in a massive explosion that lit the darkness like a small star. Shockwaves rolled through nearby enemy ships. Production docks shattered. Drones lost coordination. The hidden fleet faltered. Without their central control, many drones drifted aimlessly. Some collided with debris. Others powered down completely. The remaining Spear-class ships began retreating into deep space. They are pulling back, Liam reported. Tor's voice came through the channel. We have achieved our objective. Mark let out a slow breath. Yes, he said. For now. The Joint Task Force was damaged, but alive. And the hidden enemy had been exposed. As the surviving dark ships vanished into the outer darkness, one truth became clear. The Empire and humanity had fought side by side. And together, they had won the first battle. But the war in the shadows was far from over. A new balance of power. The explosion of the hidden shipyard echoed across deep space like a silent warning. Broken metal and burning debris floated where the enemy base once stood. The Joint Task Force, 2 human cruisers and 2 Imperial scout ships, remained in formation, damaged but steady. Inside the human flagship, engineers rushed to repair systems. Smoke cleared from control panels. Crew members worked with focused calm. Shield systems stabilizing at 50%, an engineer reported. Captain Mark stood at the center of the bridge. His uniform was slightly torn from the earlier impact, but his voice remained steady. Status of Imperial ships, he asked. Officer Liam checked the share data feed. One scout heavily damaged. The other holding at 60% shields. Mark opened a direct channel. Admiral Tor, we are ready to assist with repairs if needed. There was a short pause before Tor's image appeared on the screen. His bridge showed signs of damage as well. We appreciate the offer, Tor said. Our systems are stable for now. His tone carried something new. Respect. The surviving enemy ships had retreated into the outer darkness. Long-range sensors tracked them for several minutes before they disappeared completely. They are scattering, Liam said. No organized formation. Mark nodded. Without their central command, they are blind. On the Imperial Bridge, Commander Vale looked at Tor. Should we pursue? Tor studied the empty space where the enemy fleet had been. No, he replied. Our mission was to disable their production. We have succeeded.
He paused.
And we are not prepared for extended pursuit. Tor knew something important. Even together, they had barely managed to destroy the shipyard. If the hidden power rebuilt elsewhere, the threat would return. But this victory mattered. It proved something larger. Days later, the joint fleet returned to Sector 12. News of the battle spread quickly through both human and Imperial territories. On Earth, public screens showed the destroyed enemy base. Citizens gathered in cities, watching the footage with pride and relief. For the first time, humans saw Imperial ships fighting beside them. In the Imperial capital, the High Council received the full battle report. The chamber was silent as the final recording ended. They fought together. One elder said quietly. Yes, the High Chancellor replied. And without humanity, Admiral Tor added through hologram, we would have lost our ships. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. The Empire had ruled alone for centuries. Admitting dependence on another power was difficult. But facts could not be ignored. In a secure chamber on Earth, the Secretary-General of United Earth spoke with Captain Mark. You made the right choice, the leader said calmly. Cooperation prevented disaster. Mark answered honestly. It was not trust. It was necessity. The Secretary-General gave a small smile. Sometimes necessity creates new paths. Soon after, a formal meeting was arranged. Not a grand ceremony, not a celebration, but a quiet summit held at a neutral station near the border. Human and Imperial representatives sat across from each other at a long metallic table. Admiral Tor represented the Empire's military command. Captain Mark stood for the United Earth Fleet. The High Chancellor spoke first through secure projection. The hidden fleet remains a threat, he said. Though weakened, it is not destroyed. Mark nodded. We agree. The Chancellor continued. The Empire proposes a defensive pact against this unknown enemy. A murmur moved through both delegations. This was not an alliance of friendship. It was a pact of survival.
Tor spoke next.
Joint patrols in outer regions. Shared intelligence on hidden movements. Mark responded carefully. Mutual respect of borders. The Chancellor considered this. Agreed. The words felt heavy. The Galactic Empire had just acknowledged humanity as an equal defensive partner. Far beyond the known borders, in a distant dark system, a damaged Spear-class ship drifted near a hidden asteroid field. Inside, shadowed figures watched the battle recordings they had captured. One of them spoke in a cold voice. They adapted faster than expected. Another replied, then we must change our strategy. A new holographic map appeared, showing multiple human and Imperial systems. They are stronger together, the first voice admitted. Yes, the second answered. But unity can be broken. The hidden enemy was wounded, but not defeated. Back in Sector 12, human and Imperial ships now patrolled together in slow rotations. They did not celebrate openly. They trained. They watched. They prepared. Captain Mark stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking at an Imperial cruiser moving beside his own ship. Officer Liam joined him. Strange sight, Liam said softly. Yes, Mark replied. A month ago, we were ready to fight them. And now? Mark kept his eyes on the stars. Now the galaxy knows something important. What is that? Liam asked. Mark answered calmly. That humans are not weak. That the Empire is not invincible. And that there are greater threats beyond both of us. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Not through total war. Not through destruction. But through survival. The Galactic Empire had refused to believe humans could build warships like theirs. Now, they had seen those ships fight beside them. And the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. But in the far darkness, unseen eyes still watched. And the next move was already being planned. Cracks in the alliance. The defensive pact between humanity and the Galactic Empire changed the balance of the galaxy. Joint patrols moved along the outer borders. Human cruisers and Imperial warships traveled side by side. Information flowed between their command centers. But trust did not grow as fast as cooperation. In the Imperial capital, some elders were not pleased. "They grow stronger every cycle," one council member said sharply. "Human shipyards are expanding again." Admiral Tor stood calmly before the High Council. "They expand because the hidden enemy still exists," he replied. "Or because they plan for the future," another elder argued. "A future where we are weak." Tor did not raise his voice. "If we turn on them now, we weaken ourselves more." The High Chancellor listened carefully, but said little. Doubt had begun to spread. On Earth, similar concerns appeared. In a secure military chamber, human commanders reviewed fresh intelligence reports. "They still patrol near our border," one officer said. "Closer than before." Captain Mark stood beside the large digital map. "They are testing our reactions," he said. "Or gathering data," Officer Liam added. The Secretary General folded his hands. "Do we trust them?" Mark paused before answering. "We trust their fear of the hidden enemy," he said. "That is enough for now." Weeks passed quietly. Then long-range sensors detected something troubling. A human mining colony in the outer region sent a distress signal. "Unidentified vessels attacking," the message said. "Defense failing." The signal cut off. Captain Mark immediately ordered a response fleet to move. At the same time, Imperial sensors picked up the same energy patterns. Commander Vale reported to Admiral Tor. "Energy's signature matches remnants of the hidden fleet." Tor made a fast decision. "Dispatch support ships. Inform the human fleet we are en route." The damaged mining colony floated in silence when the first human cruiser arrived. Structures were broken. Habitation domes were destroyed. Several ships burned slowly in orbit. "They hit fast," Liam said quietly. "Search for survivors," Mark ordered. Moments later, Imperial warships exited hyperspace nearby. Human officers watched carefully, but did not power weapons. Imperial ships joined the rescue effort without hesitation. Together, they scanned the wreckage. Several survivors were found in emergency shelters. Injured but alive. One of them spoke through a weak transmission. "They were not like before," the survivor said. "Bigger ships. Stronger weapons." Mark and Tor exchanged looks through the shared channel. The hidden enemy had rebuilt faster than expected. But something else disturbed Mark. Among the debris, human scanners detected fragments of advanced weapon parts. "These pieces are not from the hidden fleet," Liam said. "Whose are they?" Mark asked. Liam hesitated. "Imperial design." Silence filled the bridge. Mark opened a private channel to Tor. "We found Imperial weapon fragments at the colony." Tor's expression hardened. "That is impossible." "We confirmed it twice," Mark replied. Tor turned to Vale. "Explain." Vale's voice was tense. "Those components belong to an older Imperial weapon series, decommissioned decades ago." Mark's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you saying the hidden enemy has access to Imperial technology?" Tor answered carefully. "Or someone within the Empire is leaking it." Back in the Imperial capital, the news spread quickly. Accusations filled the council chamber. "This is human manipulation," one elder shouted. "They plant false evidence." Admiral Tor stood firm. "Our own design markers were present. I have seen the data." The High Chancellor looked troubled. "If someone inside the Empire is assisting the hidden enemy," he said slowly, "this is treason." On Earth, military analysts considered the situation carefully. Officer Liam spoke first. "If we accuse them openly, the pact may collapse." Mark nodded. "And that is exactly what the hidden enemy wants." He understood the pattern now. The hidden fleet had tried to start a war through direct attack. Now they were using doubt, suspicion, division. Tor requested a secure private meeting with Mark aboard a neutral station. They met in a quiet chamber overlooking deep space. No large delegation, no cameras, just two commanders. Tor spoke first. If this evidence is real, then someone within the Empire aids our enemy. Mark replied calmly. And if we respond without proof, the alliance ends. Tor looked tired but determined. The Empire will conduct an internal investigation. Mark gave a small nod. Human intelligence will assist quietly. For a moment, they stood in silence. We cannot allow fear to guide us, Mark said. Tor agreed. Fear is the weapon of our true enemy. Far away, in a hidden asteroid base, shadowed figures watched news transmissions from both civilizations. One of them smiled faintly. They found the fragments. Another asked, will it break them? Soon, the first voice replied. Trust is fragile. On a holographic display, several Imperial supply routes were highlighted. The hidden enemy had begun to infiltrate deeper. Their plan was no longer simple attack. It was corruption, manipulation, slow collapse from within. Back in Sector 12, patrol fleets continued their rotations. But something had changed. Human crews watched Imperial ships more carefully. Imperial officers spoke in lower voices when humans were near. The alliance still stood, but cracks had formed. Captain Mark stood on his bridge, staring at the stars. Officer Liam approached quietly. Do you think the alliance will survive? Liam asked. Mark answered honestly. That depends on whether we find the truth before the hidden enemy finds our weakness. In the distance, an Imperial cruiser adjusted its course slightly. A small movement. But in a galaxy balanced on fragile trust, even small movements mattered. The choice that changed the galaxy. The alliance stood on weak ground. Human and Imperial fleets still patrolled together, but tension filled every shared channel. Every order was checked twice. Every signal was studied carefully. The hidden enemy had not attacked again. That silence was more dangerous than war. Inside the Imperial capital, Admiral Tor stood before the High Council once more. Our investigation has confirmed it, he said firmly. A small faction within our supply command has been leaking old weapons designs. The chamber erupted in anger. Traitors, one elder shouted. They were manipulated, Tor continued. The hidden enemy contacted them years ago. They promised power, influence. The High Chancellor's face darkened. How far does this corruption spread? Not far, Tor answered, but enough to damage trust. On Earth, Captain Mark received the classified Imperial report through secure channels. Officer Liam read the summary. They admitted internal betrayal, he said quietly. Mark nodded. That was not easy for them. The Secretary General joined the briefing. If we reveal this publicly, the leader said, it may weaken the Empire politically. Mark looked serious. But hiding it may destroy the alliance. It was a difficult choice. The hidden enemy wanted division. Now humanity and the Empire had to decide how to respond. Before any public announcement, another signal arrived. Long-range sensors detected multiple large energy spikes in deep space. Mass hyperspace signatures, Liam reported urgently. How many? Mark asked. More than before. At least 30 heavy ships. At the same moment, Imperial Command sent an emergency alert. The hidden fleet had regrouped. And this time, they were not attacking a small colony. They were heading directly toward Sector 12, toward the Joint Patrol Zone. In the Imperial capital, the High Chancellor made a fast decision. All fleets prepare for full defensive mobilization. Tor turned to leave the chamber. Admiral, the Chancellor called out. Tor stopped. Do not let pride destroy what we have built. Tor gave a short nod. In Sector 12, human and Imperial ships formed battle lines together. No hesitation. No argument. The enemy fleet exited hyperspace in perfect formation. Dark Spear-class ships filled the void, larger and more heavily armed than before. Behind them, new carriers released advanced drone swarms. They rebuilt faster than expected, Liam whispered. Mark's voice was calm but strong. All ships, defensive positions. Today, we end this. Admiral Tor's voice came through the shared command channel. The Empire stands with you. For the first time, the words sounded sincere. The battle began with overwhelming force. Enemy heavy cannons fired in coordinated waves. Space flashed with violent light. Shields on both sides flared brightly. Human warships responded with powerful blue beams, cutting through advancing drones. Imperial ships unleashed red energy storms, targeting enemy carriers. This time, their coordination was precise. They had trained together, learned each other's patterns. When one human cruiser lost shields on its left side, an Imperial battleship shifted instantly to cover the gap. When an Imperial vessel's engines were damaged, a human destroyer moved in to intercept incoming drones. The hidden enemy strategy of division had failed. At the center of the battlefield, the largest enemy command ship appeared. It was massive. Dark metal covered its surface. Energy surged along its spine. "That is their control core," Liam said. Mark opened a channel to Tor. "We strike it together." Tor answered without hesitation. "Yes." Both fleets concentrated fire on the massive vessel. Enemy ships tried to block the attack, but joint tactics pushed them back. Human heavy cannons fired first, weakening the outer shields. Imperial supercharged beams followed, piercing through the cracks. The enemy command ship began to fracture. But it fired one final massive blast. The beam struck a human cruiser directly. "Direct hit," Liam shouted. The ship's shields collapsed. Its hull cracked. Before it could be destroyed, an Imperial battleship moved forward, absorbing part of the second blast with its own shields. Both ships shook violently. Then, with one final coordinated strike, the human flagship and Imperial battleship fired together. Their beams hit the command core at the same moment. The massive dark vessel split apart. A blinding explosion filled the sector. Shockwaves rolled across space. One by one, enemy ships lost coordination. Drones drifted. Carriers shut down. The hidden fleet began to collapse. Hours later, the battlefield was quiet. Wreckage floated in every direction. But this time, the threat was gone. Long-range scans confirmed it. No organized retreat. No hidden signal. The enemy command network had been destroyed completely. In the days that followed, a joint announcement was made. The Empire admitted the internal betrayal. Human leaders confirmed the shared investigation. Instead of blaming each other, they presented the truth together. The galaxy listened. Trust, once cracked, slowly began to heal. On a quiet observation deck in Sector 12, Captain Mark and Admiral Tor stood side by side, looking at the stars. "It is finished," Tor said.
"For now," Mark replied.
Tor gave a small smile. "You were right." "About what?" Mark asked. "That humans should not be underestimated." Mark looked at the distant light of Earth. "And the Empire should not be feared without reason." They stood in silence. The Galactic Empire had refused to believe humans could build warships like that. Now they had seen those warships fight beside them, not as rivals, but as equals. The galaxy had changed, not because one side conquered the other, but because both chose unity over fear. And that choice would shape the stars for generations to come.